You were never intended to blend in. You were never intended to wander among the mundane, to live unseen, move without resistance. The air altered from the minute you arrived. The vibe surrounding you is altered, and those who work in the shadows felt it. They saw something in you that disturbed them, not because you were weak, but because you had a power that they could never contain. They murmured your name in places you've never been in circles you've never walked in by yourself. They might change the course of your life. They assembled. They strategized. They mobilized troops to oppose you. But they neglected one thing. They do not hold power. Divine justice does not negotiate. Every thread they spun in the dark is unraveling beneath the weight of their own goals. The tables are turning. The equilibrium is changing. And you remain undisturbed, because they never had the ability to shatter what was designed to rise. They believed they could stop you. They believed they could weaken you. They believed they could steal what was not theirs. And now they're witnessing their own demise unfold in real time. This is not a coincidence. This isn't luck. This is an order, restoring itself. The energy they released is returning to its source. The weapons they fashioned are crumbling in their own hands. Every power they released reached its intended target, and it was never you. If your heart is overflowing with God's goodness, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and donate $20 or more to sow seeds of faith that will change countless lives. Your giving exemplifies His richness. Be a channel for His grace and watch His kingdom grow through you. The architects of their own demise seldom perceive the impending collapse with absolute confidence. They establish the foundation. They meticulously plan their plots, confident in their ability to control the result. They were certain that destiny was within their control. However, the time came, and the trap they devised did not catch its intended target. It turned against its creator. This is the inherent design of existence. Those who wield unknown powers get trapped in an unbreakable loop. They do not just build a snare. They constructed a reflection. When they launched their deceit outward, the glass cracked, sending sharp shards loaded with their own intentions flying back toward them. What they created now clings to them, unrelenting. The storm they unleashed has changed direction, its gusts ripping through the passageways of their own thoughts. The specters they released now wrap around their brains, speaking in voices that once conveyed orders but now beg for quiet. This is not a coincidence. This balances the weight of wasted energy returning to its source. It was never a single moment, as precise as possible. There is never an instant reckoning. The change started with an invisible force pushing on them, a tightness of the air, a shadow on the verge of consciousness. They mistaken their power for dominance, thinking they could use invisible forces to their advantage. But what they grabbed for was never intended to be grasped. Darkness does not serve. It consumes. And when they placed it on another, it went to the closest open door. The drop was slow. They mistaken a whisper for their own. Then they moved with an odd weight. They speak with a strange intonation. Their reflection no longer seems familiar. What they thought was mastery has turned into ownership and the disaster they had planned for. Another person builds their own road, since whatever a man sows, he will reap. Galatians 6-7. There's a reason why the harvest is usually so plentiful. You can't sow thorns and expect flowers. You can't throw poison and expect for clean water. What are you sending out? What you set in motion always finds its way home. They believed they could rewrite the law, twisting the fundamental foundations of divine order to suit their own purposes. However, truth does not negotiate. Here's an ancient tale of a guy who constructed a dam to manage a river. He believed he could make the water flow the way he wanted, make it serve his will and submit to his commands. However, the river was never his to possess. It wielded power that was older than his plans, stronger than his defenses, and deeper than his comprehension. He had no idea that every stone he piled and every channel he pushed was merely adding pressure till the dam broke. It drowns everything in its path, even him. That is precisely what occurred here. They entered land that was never theirs. They sought for something they didn't comprehend, believing they could mold and shape it. Use it as a tool. However, power by heavenly power is not a prize. It is not a property. It's a force, a live fire, and it burns clear through the hands of those who are not supposed to grasp it. They felt they could handle it. They believed they could wear it. They believed they could control it. However, fire does not care if it was stolen out of hubris or ignorance. It burns just the same. They never sought for or attempted to take only strength. It was never simply a favor. It was an inheritance, something built by sorrow, faith, and unwavering endurance, bonded by a purpose beyond their comprehension. They believed they could have it without making a sacrifice. That's why it turned on them. A throne means nothing to someone who has not experienced the weight of the crown. A sword is only cold steel in the hands of someone who has never experienced conflict or power. Power is a burden, not a privilege, for people who have never been purified enough to handle it. The unraveling process started when they put out their hands to seize something that was never intended for them. Not fast, not everything at once, but bit by piece. They didn't even notice it at first. A hint of uncertainty, a fissure in their foundation, a weight in their soul that makes their steps halt. Their thoughts were restless. It spread like a fire across barren fields, unseen until the point of collapse. They believed they were powerful enough to wield it. They imagined they could follow the same road you did without taking a single step. However, they failed to see that power without knowledge is self-destructive. Strength without discipline becomes chaos, and favor without intent is a curse. The exact thing they sought to seize has turned against them. The power they believed would make them impenetrable is instead unraveling them from the inside out. And now? Now they are left with just the repercussions of their own actions. Because the fire they started continues to burn. It consumes. It spreads. And it won't be contained. Adversity never asked for permission before it came. It came uninvited and relentless. A tide attempted to destroy the foundation underneath your feet. It moved via whispers, betrayal disguised as loyalty, and hidden currents that hampered your progress. This was never arbitrary. The powers that live in darkness do not fight what they already have. They strike at what is beyond their grasp. And you, unshaken, unclaimed, were constantly beyond their grasp. Something about you disturbed them. They were unable to define this presence. However, I was afraid. You did not demand recognition. You did not declare your strength. It was just there, woven throughout your entire essence. That alone was enough to worry them. They intended to fracture you, not because you were frail, but because your rise was unavoidable, because your presence threw off the delicate equilibrium they were trying to maintain. However, they failed to understand the core of genuine perseverance. You were not being undone. You were being sharpened. Fire did not devour you. It formed you. Every challenge pushed you to improve. Every betrayal chiseled out more resilience. Each hardship was a reminder that you were never intended to stay where they wanted to keep you right now. The same forces who assembled to see you fall are now retreating, defeated. Not because they changed, but because you resisted. That is why they can no longer get in your way. Their error was to underestimate the weight of what they put in motion. They felt they could travel undetected and that their words and plots would never come back to them. They were unaware of the consequences of their actions or the hazards they posed. Not everyone who picks up a firearm understands the conflict they are entering. Many were only tools, drawn into a struggle beyond their understanding. They were neither tacticians or masters of their own destiny. They were just boats transporting weights that they misunderstood for power. They never questioned what they had until it stuck to them like a shadow that refused to vanish. At first, they were confident in their conduct. They laughed. They may spy on it while assuming they are untouchable. But nothing comes without a cost. And now, the weight of their decisions is bearing down, unraveling them thread by thread. Their own hands betray them. Their own ideas escape their grip. The powers they believed they controlled had instead sunk into their own bones. Some have already understood this. You can see it in their faces. The spark of discomfort, the want for an escape that will never arrive. They want to reverse what was done to free themselves of what they had embraced. However, this cannot be reversed. Their battle was never really against you. They faced something totally beyond their comprehension. And now, amid the ruins of their own construction, they are the ones left begging. They misinterpreted your forbearance for weakness and interpreted your difficulties as defeat. They saw the storms. You overcame the losses. You endured the brunt of conflicts that should have destroyed you. However, they never understood. You were never alone. Every attempt to stop you was greeted with resistance. Every power that emerged was countered by something bigger. Every time they attempted to drag you down, something unseen propelled you higher. Consider this pure delight. My siblings and sisters, whenever you experience various types of challenges, because you understand that testing your faith generates endurance. James counts 1, 2, and 3. There's an ancient tale of a tree standing in the center of a field, damaged by every storm that came by. The wind attempted to bend it. The rain attempted to drown it, as the weight of the seasons weighed down on its limbs. Nobody observed what was going on under the earth, however. Every storm caused the roots to grow deeper. Every drought caused them to extend more. Every effort, pain, every power that attempted to bring it down simply strengthened it. Until one day, the tree was the only thing standing while everything else around it disintegrated. That tree represents you. They came at you, believing they could shake your foundation. They dispatched opposition, betrayal, setbacks. I thought it would shatter you, make you wonder who you were, weaken your determination. They believed they could smother your power with hurdles. Distractions drown out your mission, steal your destiny via adversity. But they didn't realize that every struggle, assault, and effort to bring you down was really strengthening you because you weren't breaking. You were being constructed. See? Some individuals believe that power is merely given forth. That strength is something you can take. You may borrow that knowledge. However, true power must be gained. It is forged in flames. What they intended as your ruin became the same thing that formed you into something unbreakable. Every wound they attempted to inflict on you became a symbol of fortitude. Every effort to obstruct your path just helped you gain clarity. Every time they thought they trapped you, you found a way out. Because that is what occurs when someone is actually summoned. You do not break. You do not collapse. You do not fold. You undergo a transformation. They are not aware of what they have done. They don't realize that every plot, every storm, and every setback was like hitting a hammer on steel. It did not weaken you. It tempered you. They built the fire, but you came out victorious. They sent storms, but you've learned to stand in the wind. They attempted to bring you down, but all they did was give you the means to go even higher. The people who felt they were stealing something from you were really giving you what you needed. They wanted you to fail, yet all they did was make sure you succeeded. They believed they could exhaust you, but all they did was prepare you for a level they will never achieve. Because there is a secret they have never learned. Only those who make it through the storm will be able to collect the award. Only those who refuse to submit, to be shattered, or to give up may carry enduring power. And now you're moving differently. You have sharper thinking abilities. You walk taller. The fire that was intended to destroy you has become the light that leads you. The struggles that were supposed to wear you down become a training ground for something bigger. They believed they could stop you, but they put you in motion. This is why you were not intended to fall. This is why no weapon made against you can ever succeed. This is why, after everything has settled, you will be the only one standing. They wanted to know what made you unique, but they never understood where it came from. They mistaken the outward for the inside, assuming that anything you were carrying might be stolen. That strength was to be claimed rather than developed. But power without a base falls. A fool may glimpse the sheen of the ocean's surface and imagine they know its depths. They don't understand the tides, currents, or the weight of what lays underneath. They grasped for something, and now it has turned against them. The power they attempted to wield is slipping beyond their grasp, unraveling them thread by thread. They believed they could claim without making a sacrifice, take without earning, step into something that was never formed in them. However, power comes with a price. What they never underestimated was the scope of their goals. It was the expense. They never saw it coming, however. For a short time, you may have had to endure sadness and various difficulties. These have come so that the proved authenticity of your faith, which is more valuable than gold and perishes even when purified by fire, might result in acclaim, glory, and honor. 1 Peter 16:27. There is a tale of a blacksmith who spent years making a blade. He did not take shortcuts. He did not hasten the procedure. He understood that genuine strength requires fire pressure and time. The steel needed to be hammered, shaped, refined, not just once, but several times, until it became unbreakable. But one day, a guy strolled in, saw the completed sword, and thought, "That is what I desire." He grabbed for it, certain he could take it as his own, mistaking its weight for something attractive and its edge for something easy to manage. But when he raised it, he knew it wasn't simply a weapon. This was something that was earned, and what you earn cannot be taken. That is precisely what occurred here. They watched you standing firm, unaffected by the storms, and striding through hardships that would have destroyed them. They watched the doors open for you. Opportunities came your way because your presence had an unmistakable weight. Instead of inquiring, learning, or taking their own route, they attempted to seize it. They believed Favre was something that could be obtained without the method. They believed that knowledge was something you could wear without the wounds. They believed that resilience could be learned without going through the process. But power isn't a prize. This is not a title. It's a process of becoming. What you're carrying was never entrusted to you. It was erected silently, throughout the night of interrogation, through the flames of sorrow, through the times when everything attempted to break you. However, they failed. Every scar teaches a lesson. Every struggle serves a reason. Every struggle has honed you in ways others can never understand. And that is why it was never theirs to take. They wanted the results, not the refining. They sought power but not responsibility. They wanted the rewards but not the difficulties. So they arrived. They attempted to siphon what was never intended for them. However, power that is stolen rather than earned cannot support what is created on shortcuts. It crumbles under strain. What is not respected will never exist. And now they are left empty-handed. They were drained by their own avarice, weakened by their own shortcuts, because they did not realize the truth. What is made in fire cannot be taken by those who have never braved the flames. And now, as they want, you go ahead, stronger, wiser, and unshaken. They understand the consequences of their own dishonesty. They believed they could steal what was not theirs. However, they only proved one irrefutable truth. You represent what they will never be. But anybody who hears these words of mine and does not put them into action is like a stupid guy who built his home on sand. Matthew 726. There's an ancient tale about a guy who desired a crown but disliked the weight that came with it. He saw the money, jewels, and splendor and decided they should be mine. But he didn't witness the years of war, the nights of effort, and the sacrifices that built the person who actually deserved it. So he seized the crown, put it on his own head, and stood before the world as if he had achieved something bigger. When the storms arrived, the winds howled, and the earth trembled. The weight of what he took destroyed him since he didn't have a basis to support it. That is precisely what occurred here. They believed they could steal something that was never intended for them. They noticed your favor, your strength. You carried yourself with presence. They couldn't explain. And instead of developing, learning, and following their own path, they attempted to steal it. They grabbed for what had been honed in fire, tested in war, and perfected in trials. But they neglected one thing. Power cannot be worn like a cloak. It is something you become. They sought power without discipline. They want influence without responsibilities. They sought knowledge without experience. But stolen power is a scourge for those who did not earn it. They assumed they were stealing from you, but in the end, they exhausted themselves. They believed they could match your strength, but all they did was reveal their own flaws. Because what is not based on truth, what is not anchored in reality, inevitably fails. They took and took, believing that with enough effort, they might transform themselves into something they were never intended to be. But now they have nothing. The exact thing they sought to grasp has slid through their fingers, disappearing before their eyes like sand through an open hand. And here's the bit they didn't see coming while pursuing what you had. You merely become stronger. They believed they were depleting you. However, they just confirmed what was already inside of you. They believed they could weaken you, but instead they exposed the depth of what you held. They believed they could deprive you of something they never understood. However, all they accomplished was establish that it was never theirs to claim. They now stand among the rubble of their own creation. They're now staring at empty palms, wondering where everything went. Now they are learning the most difficult lesson of all. What is not honored is forever gone. They built their home on sand, and the storm has arrived. And as others sink into what they've made, you remain calm, unshaken, and unconcerned. Stand on the rock that has always been under your feet. True power is never seized. It is developed via union with something higher than oneself. Strength alone is not sufficient. It requires intelligence, perseverance, and a goal that goes beyond personal desire. What you carried was never about domination. It was a preparation. Each struggle shapes you into someone who leads with knowledge rather than control. Those who opposed you viewed their war as one against a single person, unable to comprehend the power. They were quite tough. They mistook quiet as capitulation. They mistook suffering for loss. But difficulty was never a sign of weakness. It was the creation of something indestructible. And now, the reality is obvious. You did not assert power. You became it. Whoever digs a hole will fall in it. If someone rolls a stone, it will come back at them. Proverbs 26.27. There is a tale of a guy who constructed a cage with the intention of trapping something larger than himself. He established the bar. He set the bait. He shut the door, believing he had one. But he didn't realize that he had constructed it too nicely. When he turned to rejoice, the latch clicked shut, and he was the only one inside. That is precisely what is occurring here. They laid the trap, but they walked right into it. They placed the bricks high, believing they were boxing you in, not understanding they were sealing themselves off. Every strategy, lie, and whispered conspiracy contributed to their own demise. And now the weight of everything is crushing down. The walls are closing in, and the fire they are living in is blazing under their feet. They believed they could travel unobserved. They believed they could influence without cost. They believed they could break you without breaking themselves. However, there is something they have never grasped. Everything comes full circle. You can't sow turmoil and reap tranquility. You do not get to sow devastation and reap blessing. You can't spend your days excavating graves and expect to walk freely. The armies they dispatched did not just turn around. They took root. What was supposed to hamper you has instead bonded them. What was designed to shake your foundation has caused theirs to collapse. And now they're stuck. At first, they believed they had control. They assumed their hands were stable. Their intentions were sound. Their deliberate procedures ensure that the deceit never holds. Illusions don't last. And now the earth under them is shifting, and the cords they once pulled have become entangled in their own hands. They were so focused on controlling your result that they missed what was coming for them. It's not vengeance. It is not punishment. It's about balance. The rule that controls all things does not yield to manipulation. The order of the unseen does not accommodate human plans. What they created now lives on in what they release. They are now carrying what they intended for you. They are now drowning in themselves. They laughed while starting the fire. They never imagined they'd be the ones feeling the fire. And while they scurry, battle, and look for an escape, you remain unharmed since you never had to fight back. You never had to seek justice. You never needed to change who you are. The weight of consequence has already done what it was always intended to accomplish, and they are now forced to confront what they attempted to throw your way. There was never any cause for revenge. There was never a need for intervention. The simple presence of truth was sufficient to dispel the falsehoods. And now they sit in the world they created, entrapped not by your hands, but by their own decisions. You were never bound by their destiny, never connected to the fights they attempted to pull you into as they spent themselves in a war they could never win. You remained unaffected, untouchable. They intended to extinguish your light. However, brilliance cannot be stolen. They want to unravel your route. However, fate does not bow to the will of the unworthy. They tried to bring you down, and in doing so, you merely assured your own elevation. Justice does not need recognition. It does not ask to be seen. It moves precisely, restoring what was never really endangered, realigning what was temporarily disrupted. The scales have moved. Their own acts have closed in on them. The turmoil they previously controlled now dictates their every move. They attempted to maintain power, but now they are powerless. They yearned for control. However, they are now guided by forces that they previously thought they could manage. A narrative has been written. The order was restored. And now they must deal with the consequences of their own actions.